is a warm Wednesday, August 14th, 2024. We're at the Thomas R. Carper Newark Station, not Newark, New Jersey, Newark, Delaware. Thomas Carper is a longtime Delaware Democratic senator, held the position since 2001. We're going to be railfanning the Northeast Corridor in the Delaware, Northern Maryland, and southeastern Pennsylvania area for the next couple of days. Well, this station is served by both Septa and Amtrak. Septa runs rush hour service, and Amtrak stops here occasionally throughout the day. Since my last visit here about 3 months ago, apparently they gave this station a new name. Got some maintenance of way equipment stored right next to the old 1877 built Philadelphia, Wilmington, and Baltimore station. And since my last visit here around mid-May, just days later, this station was named the Thomas Carper Newark train station. Apparently, Senator Thomas Carper is a train enthusiast like our president is. Approaching southbound, 1028 is an Amtrak work train. This Amtrak GP38-3, number 725, when delivered it was Long Island Railroad 277. When that engine came to the Long Island back in 1977, it was the first Long Island Railroad engine that had a K5 LA horn, and it was a gorgeous horn. This engine is very special to me because back in the 70s I used to kill myself looking for it with my tape recorder because I wanted to get that K5 LLA horn that it had on it. It was originally named on the Long Island the Walter Schlager. He was a former Long Island Railroad president. It's got a fresh coat of paint on it. Heading east, he's got a slow approach signal at Davis. Great to see an old friend. Well, 1045 approaching is 2162, en route from Washington to Boston. Couple of southbounds, that's how they're referred on this section of the corridor. It's northbound and southbound. Should have 2151 Boston, Washington, and 141 Springfield to Norfolk. Well, approaching at 1050 is 2151 Acela from Boston to Washington. He's switching over at Davis, switching from 2 to 3. going to take off now. Now that that work train is off the main, he went down the NS secondary here. Should open up both tracks to the normal traffic configuration. Well, approaching at 10:56, he's also making the switch over at Davis, is 141. En route from Springfield, Massachusetts to Norfolk, Virginia. Approaching at 11:09, this is one of those few trains that stop here, train 182, en route from Washington to New York. Coming on number 1 track, he's got a approach limited at Davis. He'll be switching over to 2. Powered by ACS 64s, 630 and 660, double-ended. We do that to facilitate quicker turnarounds. Oh, here you get a glimpse of the old 1877 built depot, now the Newark History Museum. Don't call this town Newark, they'll spit in your eye. Unfortunately, I can't really get good shots of trains passing this building because of the maintenance of way equipment that's parked here. It's an impressive building, nevertheless. It was built when it was the Philadelphia, Wilmington, and Baltimore Railroad. Then it became the Philadelphia, Baltimore, and Washington Railroad. Then the Pennsylvania Railroad, etc., leading to today, Amtrak. And right at the station, heading north, is a hiking trail. It's not a bad day today. It's warm, but not terribly humid. That was one of the main drivers of getting me out here. If it was humid, there's no way I would have taken this trip. Well, approaching at 11:27 is train 185 from New York to Washington. It's about the best glimpse I can get of a train with the station in the background. Zooming through Newark is train 114, Washington to New York. All right, approaching 11:41 is 2108, Acela, Washington to New York. And approaching at 11:48, and he went through the turnout at Davis. Train 2153, Boston to Washington, Acela Express. He'll be up to triple-digit speeds pretty soon. Not a good day to get too many high-speed run-bys here. 12:05 is 174 Newport News to Boston. Oh, we've moved further south along the corridor at a popular rail fanning location, Perryville, Maryland. This beautiful station was opened in 1905. Station lies between the west and east leg of the Norfolk Southern Y, heading to the Port Deposit branch, and eventually goes north towards Harrisburg. We have a southbound Amtrak at 12:55. Right now he's crossing over the Susquehanna River Bridge. And you can tell in the background, I notice all MARC stations tend to spice things up by playing background music. Approaching at 1:14 is Amtrak 2155, Acela from Boston to Washington. Approaching at 1:21, he's sounding his horn as he approaches the Susquehanna Bridge on the Havre de Grace, Maryland side. This is train 134, en route from Roanoke, Virginia to New York. A little extra horn action here. There are workers down there at the interlocking. I was wondering what that racket was. Look at that up there. A nest on top of the very top of the catenary pole. And they don't look like canaries either. Okay, approaching at 1:36 is train 91, the Silver Star, New York to Tampa and Miami. And 119 from New York to DC should be following close behind this guy. Those birds are really making a racket up there, but it's a cinch that nobody's going to bother them way up there. These bring back memories. I'll tell you, there was a train that ran under Amtrak called the Chesapeake. It started in 1978 and ended in 1983. It was a local from Philadelphia to DC and made every stop along the way that you could possibly make. A real local. In fact, I remember the Pennsylvania Railroad had a local from Philadelphia to Washington. It left every morning, made tons of stops along the way. They discontinued the Chesapeake in 1983, but you still have those oddball trains that stop at Newark, Delaware, in Aberdeen, Maryland. Well, approaching now at 1:42 is train 119 from New York to Washington. One thing I do know about these birds is they do not like trains. They go crazy when a train goes by. You'd think they'd be used to them by now with all the traffic that goes through here, but if they can't handle it, get out of the kitchen, vacate the premises. Train didn't seem to bother them too much. Well, here comes 2166, Washington, Boston at 1:55. Shortly, we're going to have a MARC train arriving from Washington, train 520. He'll get in around 2:15 and he'll go back out as 527 to DC. 2:03, here comes 2117 from New York to Washington, Acela Express. And 2:12 arriving is MARC train 520 from Washington, and an MP36 leading. Seems like I've seen a lot of those recently across the continent. Near the river, on the Perryville side, is the Rogers Tavern, birthplace of Commodore John Rogers, founder of the American Navy. And that tavern has a claim to fame. Train 125, Springfield, Mass. to Newport News, at a stunning location on the Perryville side of the Susquehanna River. The bridge in the background is the U.S. Highway 40 bridge, the National Trails Highway. There's a number of arteries of transportation that cross the river around here. Amtrak, of course, Route 40, Interstate 95, and the old B&O. Oh, here's train 527 out of Perryville heading back to DC. Stop is Aberdeen. Amtrak has big plans for the Susquehanna River Bridge. 250 have the southbound. We're standing on the opposite side of the Susquehanna Bridge in Perryville. Years ago, you could get a much clearer view from this location, but nowadays, to walk down towards the river, loose timbers, lots of brush, it's treacherous. 2168, 253, Washington to Boston. Little hillside on the opposite side of this abandoned road. Get a much better view of the bridge. And approaching at 3:17 is train 94 from Norfolk, Virginia to Boston. Maryland, and here comes 171 from Boston to Roanoke. This splendid view is from a boat ramp in Havre de Grace, Maryland, on the opposite side of the Susquehanna. If you're from out of town, you call this town Havre de Grace. 356, here's 20, the Crescent from New Orleans to New York, about to cross the Susquehanna at Havre de Grace. Comes 133, New York to Washington at 4:08. Consist earlier today. He's going back to DC. Should have 2121 following. This Susquehanna River Bridge and a couple of other ones, the Bush River Bridge and the Gunpowder River Bridge, further down are going to be replaced. More high-speed service on those new bridges. Today is just a gorgeous day. For this part of the country in mid-August, to have a day like this, it's 84 degrees, humidity isn't too bad, very pleasant. Normally this time of year down here, it's very hot and very humid. 423, here comes Acela, 2121, New York to Washington. Well, we moved to this location, Aberdeen, Maryland, home of the Aberdeen Proving Ground and the birthplace of Baltimore Orioles Hall of Famer Cal Ripken.
Ridley Park, Newark Airport, Newark, New Jersey, New York Penn Station, New Rochelle, Stamford, Bridgeport, New Haven, Wallingford, Meriden, Berlin, Hartford, Windsor, Windsor Last. Passengers should proceed to track 2. Thank you for choosing Amtrak.
Oh, you uplift my spirit so much with that charismatic voice. That's for train 148 from Washington to Springfield, Mass. I got 4:43 p.m. And you'll note that footbridge there, where it crosses, there was once a grade crossing. Well, here comes 93, Boston to Norfolk at 4:50. have 19, the Crescent from New York to New Orleans, not far behind. Comes 2172, Washington, Boston at 4:55. He ran around 1:48. He's running about 45 minutes late. He's going to pick up quite a number of passengers here at Aberdeen. Here comes 19, the Crescent. All right, he'll be in New Orleans tomorrow night. Oh my God, they're after me. Well, approaching at 4:58 is train 148, Washington to Springfield. Getting ready to slow down and stop at Aberdeen. Rattling the wires, 2163, Boston, Washington at 5 o'clock. Boarding these Amtrak Northeast regional trains from a station with a low platform is time consuming. A lot of people are just getting on where one crew member is standing, one open vestibule, climbing up the steps. One of the few low platform stations on the Northeast Corridor. Other low platform stations on the Northeast Corridor between Washington and Boston. This one, obviously, a place we were at earlier today, Newark, Delaware, Mystic, Connecticut, and Westerly, Rhode Island. Well, here comes 178, Washington, Boston at 5:12.
Washington Union Station, Alexandria, Woodbridge, Quantico, Fredericksburg, Ashland. Passengers should proceed to track 4. Thank you for choosing Amtrak.
You're very welcome, my dear. Well, approaching at 5:37 is MARC train 532, Washington to Perryville. Looks like he's got a Siemens Charger on the point. And Amtrak's 85 is due from Boston to Richmond. He'll be stopping here. I've seen a lot of Chargers in recent memory, transcontinental. Amtrak and Ace. The new wonder of railroading in America. Yeah, it's a little time consuming to load and unload at low-level platforms. By the way, I forgot one on the Northeast Corridor that Amtrak stops at with a low platform. Cornwalls Heights, Pennsylvania. I think there's one train that stops there each way. Now, I must say the weather here is much nicer today than it was when I was here 3 months ago. I was dodging raindrops like crazy. All right, 545, approaching is 85 from Boston to Richmond, Virginia. Somebody passing gas.
Attention please. This is a boarding call for Amtrak Northeast Regional Train 196 en route to New York Penn Station with intermediate stops at Williamston, Philadelphia, 30th Street, Ridley Park, Newark Airport, Newark, New Jersey. Passengers should proceed to track 2. Thank you for choosing Amtrak.
A job with BART awaits you. Yeah, it's 6:02, approaching is train 80, the Carolinian, en route from Charlotte, North Carolina to New York. .612, that was train 136 from Washington, D.C. to Springfield, Massachusetts. 97, Silver Meteor. That was the Silver Meteor en route from New York to Miami. No Tampa detour. All right, it's 6:25 in the morning on Thursday, August 15th, 2024. Happy birthday, Solange. What a very exhilarating place. This is the Edgewood MARC station in Edgewood, Maryland. 2-track main, it's straight as an arrow in both directions. Trains are going through here at track speed. 125 for regionals, 135 for Acelas. This is probably almost as exhilarating as Mansfield, Massachusetts, although Amtrak trains go faster, especially the Acelas. And there aren't as many Amtraks there as there are here, but there are more commuter trains there than there are here. I'm going to spend a bit of time here getting the fast action. Ah, you heard the reveille call at nearby Edgewood Arsenal. It's 6:30 in the morning. All right, it's a pleasant morning. 64 degrees, should be another sunny day. Not terrible humidity. And our first customer at 6:44 is train 2152 en route from Washington to Boston. He's about to pass the old Edgewood Tower on the left. See, trains don't mess around here. Well, it's 6:52. Here comes MARC train 517 en route from Perryville, Maryland to Washington, D.C. Amtrak 151 from New York. New York to Washington is late. This is part of MARC's Penn line, which runs on the corridor. Most trains go between Washington and Baltimore. It's pretty regular, but just a few trains go beyond there to Perryville. I see the headlight of Amtrak 151 off in the distance. He's going to be poking behind this guy for a while. His next stop after here, I think, is Martin Airport. Face of railroading in North America, the Siemens Charger. There are 4,200 horsepower and 4,400 horsepower versions. That is the latter. Approaching now at 6:58 is train 181, running about 10 minutes late at least. He departed New York at the ungodly hour of 4:20 in the morning. If he had been on time, he would have gotten here ahead of MARC and would have been going at 125. Well, approaching at 7:31 is Amtrak 111 from New York to Washington. Departs New York at 4:50 a.m. It's like a real local. Makes New Brunswick, Princeton Junction, Newark, Aberdeen. As 111 heads towards his next stop at Baltimore, approaching now is 1:30. He departs Washington at 6:30 a.m. He's running a little late. Washington to New York. Horsepower trains here. Like I said, they run double-ended these days so they can facilitate quick turnarounds. 7:35, here comes 2103, Acela, New York, Washington. He left New York at 5:30. approaching at 7:54 is Acela Express 2154, en route from Washington to Boston. About to... Doing 135 through here. Imagine being at Mansfield, Mass, where they do 150. Well, here comes MARC train 502 from Washington to Perryville, stopping here at Edgewood, and he's got a Siemens charger. I was hoping to see an HHP8.
Ladies and gentlemen, our next station stop will be Aberdeen. Aberdeen will be next. Once again, Aberdeen will be next. Exit in the rear of the train, last 2 cars to Aberdeen. Exit in the rear of the train, last 2 cars to Aberdeen.
Thank you. Now the whole world knows that the train is making its next stop at Aberdeen. Well, approaching now at 8:11. This train is a real hot shot. This is train 181 from New York to Washington. He makes all the major stops with Newark Airport added and doesn't make any of those 2-bit stops. And he makes the run from New York to Washington in 3 hours and 16 minutes. Pretty good. Approaching at 8:14 is train 172 en route from Washington to Boston, the old Colonial. Railfanning this station. And that train at 8:33 was 89, the Palmetto from New York to Savannah. Departs New York 6:04 a.m. and arrives Savannah at 9:05 tonight. Got a long trip ahead of him. And at 8:39, here comes train 112. Washington to New York. Here comes 2107, New York, Washington, 8:44. Here comes 2104 at 9:01, Washington and New York, Acela. 901, this is MARC 525 en route from Perryville to Washington. It's the last train until mid-afternoon going into Washington. Approaching at 9:13 is a train heading for the North Country. It's 56th Vermonter from Washington to St. Albans, Vermont. Well, 9:55, here comes 183 en route from New York to Washington. Hoping to catch 3 more trains before I leave. The Carolinian should follow, and coming north we should see 86 and 98. Okay, approaching at 9:58 this should be train 98, the Silver Meteor from Miami to New York. And look what locomotive is leading the train. Ha ha ha. It's just a matter of time. And at 10:02 is 86, Richmond to Boston. Well, our last train will get here at this fascinating 3.5 hours I spent watching these lightning bolts is train 79, the Carolinian from New York to Charlotte, North Carolina. Well, today's still August 15th, 2024. I'm at a place where a lot of people have been bugging me to go to for so long, and I never did, knowing that I come down to Philadelphia so often. They wonder, why haven't you gone here yet? Well, here I am. I'm at the new Claymont Transportation Center, which opened up in December of 2023, and I must say it's a beaut. We're just north of Holly Interlocking and just north of the old Claymont station that this replaced. We'll hang around here for a bit. I want to railfan some locations between here and Philadelphia. The station is gorgeous. Sort of out in the sticks a little bit. Right off of Interstate 495, US 13. Here you got the 4 tracks. You got tracks 1, 2, 3, and 4. Right to left. And here you got Septa trains between Philadelphia and points beyond to and from Wilmington and Newark, Delaware. Okay, approaching at 11:47 is 114, Washington and New York. nicely manicured tracks here at Claymont. I'll tell you, you talk about the Silver Star, and I say I don't use the moniker Stupid Star anymore because the Silver Meteor is back running through to Miami. But really, the Silver Star is still the Stupid Star. It takes that dog leg on the way to Miami via Tampa. And the train stops in Lakeland, Florida twice. Once on the way down to Tampa, and as part of its route to Miami, it stops there on the way back. So if you're a passenger who wants to get off at Lakeland, Florida, and you come from New York and you miss your stop, you'll get a second chance. Now here's an interesting thing. Suppose somebody gets on at Lakeland on the trip down and wants to buy a ticket to Lakeland on the trip back. Since going from Lakeland to Lakeland is part of the train's itinerary, it's not exactly a round-trip ticket. So what are you buying, a one-way ticket from Lakeland to Lakeland? Think about that. It's stupid. The Stupid Star. 1214 is 95 from Boston to Norfolk. We'll be arriving in Wilmington in a few minutes. And approaching at 1221 is Septa train 2514. I'll tell you, 99% of the time you could count on that train of having Silverliner 5s on it. That's a Wilmington Doylestown run, and I've ridden on it several times. I met conductor Bill on that several times. Soon he'll be an engineer. Like I said, that train usually has Silverliner 5s, but today, catch that? The second car on the train was the Reading Heritage Silverliner 4. Too bad it wasn't on the ends. Yeah, these cars have been around for decades. I've ridden on them for decades coming down to Philadelphia. You know, all reliable cars. They're there. I ride on them, blah, 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 blah. I guess the worst thing that ever happened was the Silverliner 5s were delivered. Not that that was bad, but they're so much flashier looking. They're faster. They have beautiful horns in those Railfanning windows, and that's when I started really not liking the Silverliner 4s that much anymore. So, but you know, it is what it is. But the Silverliner 5s and I have had a love affair together, which have benefited a lot of Septa employees. So, really no reason to complain about them. A lot of people complain to me saying the Silverliner 5s are junk, they're no good, they won't last that long. Well, that may be true, but I still love them. So, you know, I can deal with it. I can deal with the insults. I have an unlimited supply of Xanax at home. I take about 10 of them. Then I feel fine. Your complaints don't bother me. So, no sweat. And approaching at 1227 is 2155, Acela, Boston to Washington. Washington to New York. Acela Mania. Well, here comes 174 from Newport News to Boston at 1238. This is a neat station. Reminds me of UBS Arena on the Long Island Railroad. Brand new station with 4 tracks, but it's much busier. Well, just a little ways further east and we're in the state of Pennsylvania, the beautiful state of Pennsylvania, in the town of Marcus Hook. Pennsylvania isn't particularly beautiful in this area, Lots of refineries around. Here's something blowing its horn back there. Decades ago, Delaware did not subsidize the Septa service to Wilmington, and so the service ended here. This is the last station before crossing the border into Delaware. Well, approaching Marcus Hook southbound at 12:55 is, speak of the devil, train 91, the Stupid Star, otherwise known as the Silver Star. I don't know, that dog leg it takes to Tampa is really idiotic. It's an insult to people on the east coast of Florida further down. Why don't they do what they did years ago and break the cars off at Wildwood and send them on their separate ways? Save a lot of time for people going down to Miami and places in that neighborhood. Silver Star was the second most famous train on the Seaport Airline, next to the Silver Meteor. It was a good train. It didn't have the Sun Lounge car or the observation car, but it was pretty fast and pretty posh. But it's ridiculous what it is today. Comes 84 from Norfolk to Boston, Norfolk to New York actually at 109. Arriving on track 4 at 1:14 is Septa train 5215 en route to Wilmington. And hallelujah, do-da day, he's got Silverliner 5s. Yeah, those are really spiffy looking. Love the striping, acceleration on these cars, the horns. And when he rounds the curve down there, he'll be in the state of Delaware, and he'll be approaching his next stop at Claymont. Well, I'm thankful at this time of day the sun favors being on this platform. I have no need to go over to that platform. But to do so, since there's no tunnel, there are no elevators, you have to navigate these continuous ramps and steps to get up to the overpass, and then cross the tracks and then come down the same way. Very time consuming. Whoa, 127, here comes train 2117, New York to Washington, Acela Express. I'm not sure where this town got its name, but I heard a rumor that it was a guy in one of the Rocky movies. Rocky Balboa fought a guy named Marcus, and he had a mean left hook. I don't know if that story is true. We're now at the Eddystone Septa station, just on the other side of Chester. Eddystone is where the Baldwin Locomotive Works used to be. That was train 134 from Roanoke to New York. Here comes 131, New York, Washington at 1:57. Well, here comes 5217 en route to Wilmington. He runs non-stop express from Crumlin to Chester. And he's got Silverliner 4s. We're up at the town of Ridley Park in Delaware County. The station building was built in 1942. Ridley Park is a rather nice place. I never really had a good look at it. I've only seen it from trackside onboard trains. Well, here comes 2159 from Boston to Washington at 2:28. Gonna have a meet. And that Acela going towards Boston was 2166. Catching me by surprise at 2:33 was 171 from Boston to Roanoke, Virginia. Long trip ahead. This station is built in a cut. I have a stone retaining wall behind me that's kind of blocking the wind out. So it is kind of hot here, even though I'm in the shade, but other than that, the station is very attractive. Well, at 2:47, here's Septa train 2518 en route from Wilmington to Doylestown with Silverliner 5s. You can see that K3LA horn on the top left of the car there, car 737. I mean, these have just beautiful horns. When you compare these horns with the Silverliner 4s, it's like comparing the singing of Taylor Swift to Yoko Ono. Next stop just around the curve, Prospect Park, Moore. Well, approaching Wilmington bound at 2:57 is 3219. Looks like he's got GEs. Further up the line to the Prospect Park station. It's an old structure. Don't know when it was built, but I know it's been here at least since 1932. This has all different names. They call it Prospect Park, they call it Prospect Park Moore, they call it Moore, but the sign at the station says Prospect Park, so that's what I'll go by. This time of day on this platform, the southbound platform, this is the best place to be this time of day. You can see clearly in both directions, quite a distance. If you're standing on the opposite side this time of day, you're in the middle of a blind curve and trains will sneak up on you. On this side right now, Got plenty of time. Here's 184. When 133 first comes into view, it rounds the curve just north of Sharon Hill, and has to pass through Fowcroft, Glenolden, and Norwood before it gets here. The stations are really close together. Well, here comes 2168, Washington, Boston at 3:29. A shot move? A PTC move? Well, here comes 93 from Boston to Norfolk, Virginia at 3:41. Well, it's been a rip-roaring couple of days. Railfanning in the Northeast Corridor in Maryland, Delaware, and Pennsylvania. Going to finish up at Levittown, 6:12 p.m. and we have a what's considered westbound here heading for Philadelphia. Look what we have coming westbound. With the steel. I saw a northbound going by a little while ago with some tanks. Okay, approaching at 6:45 is a very late train. He's about 2 hours and 20 minutes behind schedule. Train 97, the Silver Meteor from New York to Miami. That was 2169, Acela from Boston to Washington. Then we move further west. We're just past Grundy Tower. We're between Levittown and Bristol in an interesting parking space that's has great lighting this time of day. And right across the tracks from here is our Conrail Shared Assets train that went by Levittown a few minutes ago. Not sure what he's doing here. disconnected from the rest of his train. There are a number of lead tracks that the Conrail freights use just west of Bristol. Maybe he's going to back in there. Here's 197, New York, Washington at 7:08. He's backing up. Here comes 654, Harrisburg to New York at 7:12. He's bouncing through Grunny Interlocking right now. Don't you just love the sound of 645 prime movers? 136, Washington to Springfield at 7:22. Septa 1756 for Suburban. $7.26 for Chestnut Hill East, shouldn't be far behind. They're running a little late due to a fire in Philadelphia. Here's 2122 Washington to New York at 7:32. Amtrak 655, New York Harrisburg, by at 7:35. He's using 3 tracks down there. Hey, sweet music isn't just confined to horns. Septa 726 for Chestnut Hill East at 740 with Silver Liner 5s. Pretty soon we'll have Septa 727 bound for Trenton, and he has one of the Heritage cars, Silver Liner 4s. Well, here's 727, Heritage car on the front, the Penn Central. I must say, Septa, Amtrak, and Conrail Shared Assets put on one hell of a show here. Stick around for one more train, number 80, the Carolinian, Charlotte, North Carolina to New York. Here's 80.